and welcome to the Oakland County Megacast. I'm Tyler Keefe alongside Ronnie Dahl in the studios of our flagship stations 89.3 Lakes FM and Civic Center TV. In addition, today, as always, we're on Birmingham area municipal access, both of our TV channels, Comcast Channel 15 and AT&T Channel 99. On the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM in the greater West Bloomfield area and 88.1 WBFH, the Biff in Bloomfield Hills, Birmingham, and the surrounding areas. Also on the web, civiccentertv.com. Click on our Watch Live link or join us at the very top right of our homepage on your computer web browser to watch us live and all of our regular programming on Civic Center TV 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. And on Facebook today, as always, facebook.com/CivicCenterTV 15 and facebook.com/LakesFM. And as always, joining me today in the studios here in West Bloomfield is Ronnie Dahl.
Hey, it's hump day.
It is hump day. It doesn't feel like it though. It feels like a Tuesday today because my mind is still not in this 4-day work week thing here after Memorial Day. But you know what? It'll be a nice adjustment on what feels like a Sunday on Saturday.
Well, you still came in Monday, though.
I did come in on Monday, and I work on Sunday. So.
Hey, Tyler, you look snazzy in a tie today.
Yeah, no, it's I decided to blend in a little more with the background, but pop out from under. You know, you think the black background is done in the background, and then here we go. You know, it's nice separation, it's layers.
So no big date or anything. You just decided to.
Yeah, no, just decided to toss on a tie today. You know, throw people off a little, keep them on their toes.
So, Tyler, it's only the second day back here in the studio, and already I walk out without my water.
Oh, no.
I'm like, you have things ready, you filled it up, it's sitting right there, and then you walk out the door, you get down the street, I go to take a drink, I'm like, ah. So I stopped at the, corner store on the way in, and I will say, you wonder, too, for so many of these businesses, that adds up for them, right? People just stopping to get that coffee or, the water or something of that nature, the Red Bull. And so I would anticipate they're pretty excited for people to come back to the office. Yeah,
I think we've talked numerous times with the mayor of Troy, Ethan Baker, who has said for the businesses in the city of Troy especially, that getting people back in the office, and same thing with Joe Bauman, talking to him from the Birmingham Chamber of Commerce about their business down in the city of Birmingham, especially downtown. Getting people back into those offices is so important for those shops and those stores and those restaurants who get the vast majority of their business during the work week from people that are commuting to those offices and going out for lunch or going out for drinks after work at the end of the day, or go into the shops afterward to buy some flowers for their significant other or go get some groceries quickly before they go home.
I think I saw a story yesterday, though. They were talking how many people are considering quitting their jobs. About 30% say they would quit if they're forced to go back into the office.
It's not entirely surprising. I think people have gotten used to this working from home situation. In a lot of cases, it's easier for them to manage their life that's mostly based out of their home, from their home, while also focusing on their work tasks. And in many cases, a lot of people feel more productive having been working at home than they would in a normal office day. And of course, you get the reduced frustration of not having to deal with your commute each and every day and frustrations of being in an office setting that may or may not be there. But for these employers, that's got to be a concern also if you're having people that are considering leaving altogether because there's not going to be a remote option when things may be better off for your business being in person. So there's going to be a balancing act there, certainly, as things begin to continue opening back up.
Yeah, and you really wonder, too, that's kind of where that hybrid model probably should come in, because there is something that is lost when you're working from home. Just that water cooler talk with some of your coworkers. You get to know them. You spark new ideas, the creativity that comes with all of that. So maybe it's like 2 days in, 3 days home. Because too, I will say, I'm wondering how much do some of these companies save? Because I will tell you, since my husband has been working from home, he, just so you know too, he has kind of an odd way of doing his whole setup. So he doesn't have a station computer, he doesn't have a prompter, so he writes his scripts really large on paper with a red Sharpie. We have gone through so much paper and so many red Sharpies. He's constantly going, "Can you pick me up red Sharpies?" I don't know why he wants red, but think about all the paper over the past year that it saves your company, but not only the paper, but the toner from the copier, things of that nature. We're really lucky because we bought a new printer right before the pandemic hit. Because when some of these home printers are such crap, it's like, especially if you don't use them for a while and the ink dries up. So we finally got a laser. So it's a lot better. And thank goodness we did, because it's really saved us throughout this pandemic.
Yeah, those can be a little finicky. I remember I had a printer in college that I got from some family friend that was replacing theirs, and it was one that worked over Wi-Fi or worked with a direct connection, but switching from one Wi-Fi in one apartment or in my dorm room to a Wi-Fi in an apartment was an absolute pain, and it was just going in and out, and it was not functioning. So having a good printer, of course, is, especially if you're doing office work where you're printing a lot of documents, or you just need to have a script to reference, in Woody's case, for then transcribing in red Sharpie to pull, which, by the way, that method, bless his heart, because I don't know how that is a functional method, but whatever works for you, because I'm just imagining reading my own handwriting, pulling the cards down, being mindful of what is live on TV, and doing all the reporting at the same time. That just sounds like a...
He basically does it like this, Tyler. He has some setup. By the way, he's actually live over his cell phone. Right. They're not even using, like, when I was home, I would still do Zoom over the computer with the webcam.
Right.
Because, Mac, their cameras aren't the best on their computers. So, but for him, he was still just using his cell phone because of whatever, system they had going over there at Fox 2. But he would write it. Just so people know that when you're in news, you print your scripts, it's always on one side. The words are on one side, because on the other side is going to be the director cues.
Right.
So he has no director cues. It's just him in the bedroom. But it's still one of these where he writes it out like that, real big and bold, and then he has a clipboard. And he puts them up there, and as he's reading, he tears it down and goes to the next and to the next. And I keep telling him, hey, there's a app for a prompter. I can totally hook you up with this app. It's so much easier. You can run it, stop it, slow it. No, he's just old school. But in the meantime, we have probably spent thousands of dollars in red Sharpie and printer paper over the past year.
Single-handedly keeping Sharpie's red marker division in business. Congratulations to them, and a big thank you from them, I would think, on behalf of the Woodruff family, for keeping them in business over the pandemic.
But really, for some of these businesses, expenses such as that, little expenses, but the printer, the toner, the paper, all of that really kind of adds up quite a bit as well. And so, for people, but it offsets kind of the cost of the commute as well, because you're not spending money on gas to get to the office.
Right. Yeah, and I think what's going to be the balancing act here is those cost savings for not having people in the office, or being able to downsize your office because you don't need to have the entire company in there at one specific time, several days or 5 days a week, whatever the case may be. If you're having people kind of platoon being in the office versus being telecommuting, you're saving all those costs. You're able to downsize, and maybe that is an incentive for these companies to change their model of doing business, while also accommodating some of these workers that now, having done work from home for almost 2 years, that are now feeling much more acclimated to that and preferring that over being in the office 3-5+ days a week.
I remember watching a TED Talk years ago, and it was from a CEO with a company who was basically saying everything that we just experienced over the past year. He's like, I don't need you in the office. What? He's like, I don't need to micromanage you. This is your job. These are your tasks. And you need to complete them. Whether you complete them in 4 hours or 8 hours, I'm paying you for the job, not the hours. So, and if it's an extra incentive, you get it done in 4 hours, and then you can spend the next 4 hours and go learn a new skill or be a happier person, and you're going to be a better employee. So we kind of had this model years ago, and it's just taken us all this time to catch up. And I remember when I was with ATF, towards the end, right before the pandemic, I had put into telecommute because there is one division of the civilians that they do telecommute.
Okay.
They only had to come into the office, I think, one day a week. And I remember my boss denying it. And I was like, why do I need to come into the office? There's absolutely no reason for me to go in to the office other than people using my coffee machine. I was like, and then come to find out they're still telecommuting. I'm like, oh, I should have just waited.
Yeah, there are plenty of situations where even if it's certain people, there's always going to be a situation where certain people do need to be in an office setting, whether in a number of different industries. But there are a lot of people that don't necessarily have to be doing all their work in the office, and sometimes it's convenient for the company, definitely for keeping track of employee productivity. In some cases, it can be very important to have them in the office, but if they don't have to do every single thing there and they're more comfortable, and it's making your company morale be that much higher while still keeping productivity high or even potentially being higher, then there's a great benefit to continuing the remote work after this pandemic. And as unfortunate as this spark has been, being that the pandemic was what sparked this discussion, this is going to be one of those outcomes that may be a silver lining coming out of this pandemic.
And so with that, we'll kind of jump into the headlines, but I'll bounce around just a little bit because talking about that, Tyler, the state court administrator says online judicial proceedings are here to stay in the state of Michigan. So State Court Administrator Thomas Boyd said the use of online platforms such as Zoom to conduct court proceedings is the biggest boost to access to justice in our lifetimes, and it will continue long after the pandemic is over. He sent a statewide memo to judges and court administrators last week that said several judicial pandemic orders will likely become permanent as Michigan emerges from the crisis, including one that says all judges are required to make a good faith effort to conduct proceedings remotely whenever possible. Now, there are going to be exceptions. The major exception is going to be jury trials, which will continue to happen in person. Also, he said it's likely that testimony in all criminal trials, be jury trials or bench trials, will need to be conducted in person so that accused people can confront their accusers. But it is possible that most civil trials can be conducted online, through some complex commercial litigation may still require in-person hearings. Details are still being worked out. I do know a few lawyers who have said that this has been great for them, especially some of the ones that are dealing more with misdemeanors or DUIs, this, that, and the other. One attorney was telling me that he used to spend so much time commuting between the different courts. One case might be in Brighton, another in Oakland, another in Detroit. Yeah. This way, he can be home, he's more effective, and it can do everything that he would do in a courtroom via Zoom. So it is good to see that permanent changes are going to be happening, because I will say, if you would have brought this up prior to the pandemic, it would have been like, no way.
Yeah, you would have been laughed out of the room, and now we're seeing some of the benefits, particularly in the court cases that aren't as intensive or don't need as much interaction in person between the plaintiffs and the defendants, or between the judge and the lawyers, so to speak. And in cases like this, where you have smaller claims or you have misdemeanors that are pretty procedural and straightforward and don't have a lot of deliberation, it's more efficient to have them online. And on top of that, not like you said, eliminating those commutes for the attorneys and for the judges in some of these cases, it allows more time to be focused on providing the best care to your defendant or to the plaintiff in the case of the lawyers, and to focusing on the case in the case of the judges, where you're not spending so much time commuting and going through the proceedings of going into the physical court. You can spend more time providing a better service to people and getting these cases through in a more efficient manner.
Yeah, I definitely understand jury trials.
Yes.
You can't do those via Zoom, but so many court proceedings, a lot of people may not realize this, it's just a procedure. Right. Sometimes you're in there for like less than 5 minutes, the actual hearing itself. but the time is spent driving, waiting, appearing, and then leaving as well. So I think this is going to be a good thing for our judicial service, but also allowing the courts to catch up on so many of the cases. People, sometimes the backlog in some of these courtrooms is pretty amazing, just trying to, get everyone scheduled together to where they can actually make it into the courtroom at the same time. So this is good to hear. Hey, Pontiac, COVID-19 emergency order has been terminated. So it has been in effect since March 13th, 2020. It has now been terminated. The mayor says she and other city staffers are ready to continue to offer services after about 15 months of interruptions. City will continue to adhere to the guidelines issued by the governor and the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services. So also, the chairman of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, Dave Woodward, says all full board and committee meetings are going to be held in person starting next week. The board has not held any in-person meeting since March 2020. A few months ago, they were attempting to do so, and then we saw that crazy surge here in the state of Michigan, and it was postponed.
Yeah, there's definitely been a push to get back to in-person as COVID cases have dropped. It's happened previously. Obviously, we went into that terrible surge in the state of Michigan that definitely threw that off. Definitely in the case of Oakland County, which had put plans in place and had tested things out and was ready to do a hybrid model previously. Now they're going back to in-person. And as things continue to open up, I think we're going to see more of this happening where individual municipalities will waive their emergency orders that provide them the leeway to have virtual meetings. They'll put their own policies in place in the case of any sort of hybrid meeting procedures that may be there, and we'll start to see these in-person meetings come back, which hopefully will increase some participation in person from people in the community. These virtual meetings have made things a little more convenient for people, but maybe not as often people are showing up to these meetings, even though they are more convenient than having to travel into your city hall.
Yeah, and we should point out to those that don't understand, maybe, you need this emergency order in place in order to be able to do these remote meetings in order to be in compliance with the Open Meetings Act and the law surrounding open meetings. So that's why this is kind of a big deal, because now they'll have to be in person. But as you said, Tyler, it's going to be interesting going forward to see if some of the communities are able to do some type of hybrid situation from here on out, so that people can maybe not go all the way to City Hall if they want to maybe, make an appearance or a comment during the public comment period, or even just to listen in.
Yeah, and I know that's something on our end that nothing has been officially determined yes or no, or any specifics in our case, but I know that's something that's been discussed with many municipalities that we cover meetings for as they plan for the post-COVID future and having some sort of virtual element be in place. It was something that was even lightly discussed well before the pandemic as well, to allow people to be interacting if they couldn't make it to City Hall on a given night, so that there wasn't as much absenteeism in some cases on certain boards.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea to try to come up with some type of hybrid program. Hey, Oakland County is going to be receiving $3 million from the federal government to further support businesses as they try to recover from the pandemic. So Oakland County is receiving $3 million from the U.S. Economic Development Administration to use as loans to support small businesses still recovering from the COVID-19 pandemic. The county's Economic Development Department is going to be working in collaboration with the Great Lakes Women's Business Council and the lending program. They applied for the CARES Act Recovery Assistance Grant funding. The federal dollars are going to be dropped into the county's revolving loan fund. Initially, loans being distributed will target businesses impacted by still recovering from the pandemic. Dollars are going to be used to provide gap financing for small businesses that cannot access funding from traditional sources, such as banks and credit unions. Funding is also going to be used to support businesses in economically distressed areas, provide access to capital for minorities, women, and others who are underrepresented in mainstream financing. In order to receive the funding, though, Oakland County provided $1 million match from its unassigned fund balance and $300,000 to cover oversight and administrative cost. Last month, as we told you here before, the county received half of its $244 million American Rescue Plan allocation to help with its COVID-19 response efforts. I will say, Tyler, I kind of have mixed feelings on some of this money flowing into our governments, because at the end of the day, this is our money. This is taxpayer money. Generations are going to be paying this back. So I think they need to be wise and a little bit more fiscally responsible when we're allocating this. It's great to see that we're supporting some of these efforts, but also I feel like some of our elected leaders feel like they won the lotto.
Yeah, this has
They're
to
flush
be
with cash.
Yeah, this has to be allocated properly, and it has to be done efficiently to help those that are actually in a major crisis right now, and to keep their businesses alive, so that they can keep their employees employed and continue to have people being able to make ends meet and get those essentials for their home, keep the roof over their head, keep food on the table, and keep these small businesses that are the backbone of our communities alive. But they do need to be very careful, because this is a ton of money that is being thrown around, not just here in Oakland County, but all over the country with COVID relief funds.
Yeah, so with that, just a reminder, you can always find the latest headlines. Just go to civiccentertv.com, click on coronavirus. We're going to take a quick break, but when we come back, we'll get the show started. A great lineup for you here today. So excited to talk to our first guest. He's going to be the co-producer of the Immersive Van Gogh exhibit. The ads have been popping up on my Facebook page for weeks now, and I'm so excited to talk to him, because I've seen people post pictures from events in other cities such as Chicago. So great to have that coming to Detroit. We'll also be speaking with the chief for the Oakland County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. That's going to be around 10:40. In the 11 o'clock hour, we'll be speaking with the director for the Kelvin Prison Initiative and what they're doing to try to help some of our inmates get college degrees while they're behind bars. And also the brand ambassador for Detroit City Distillery will be joining us. And then we'll round out the show with our good friend Greg Flynn, the chief for the West Bloomfield Fire Department. That's coming up next here on the Megacast.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too.
Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and experiences connect through conversation, and it feels good.
This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope too.
Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together. Start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine. Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful. Because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
We we want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. We have a great show ahead for you on this Wednesday. No, it's not Tuesday. It is actually Wednesday, which is a good thing. Tyler, I don't know if you've seen the ads for the new exhibit that's going to be coming here to Detroit, the Immersive Van Gogh exhibit.
I have not seen the ads for it. This is actually the first I've been hearing of it.
Oh my goodness. They are absolutely, the ad and the pictures, but also experiences other people have been posting about on Instagram and Facebook seem like it's absolutely amazing. And I was so excited to see that it was coming here to Detroit, but it's going to be a hard ticket to get. With us now, though, Corey Ross. He's the co-producer for the Immersive Van Gogh exhibit. Corey, great to have you with us here on the Megacast.
Thanks. It's a pleasure to be here.
So for those that, like Tyler, that maybe have been living under a rock and haven't seen the advertisements or the post about this exhibit, fill us in.
Okay, well, the first thing I usually say when speaking to audiences in America is if you have been watching Emily in Paris on Netflix,
yes,
then you know what I'm talking about, because episode 5 of Emily in Paris was shot from an immersive Van Gogh exhibit that was created by Massimiliano Siccardi, and Massimiliano has created a new show for North America. It's his first time doing something in America. He's been creating these immersive art installations in Europe for over 30 years, and millions of people have come to see his work, and we're very excited to be bringing it to America. Now, what is it? It is, we take over a building and he digitally maps the gallery, the architecture of the gallery. So the building itself is a participant in the art, and you walk into the gallery and every surface is projected on and illuminated by and transformed by Van Gogh's paintings that then come alive because Massimiliano is an animator. And so he deconstructs the pieces and they begin to move. So sunflowers are swaying in the breeze, and clouds are going by, and stars are twinkling. But also he creates a loose narrative. It's all choreographed to music, an original music score, and it tries to delve into the psychology of Van Gogh. Meanwhile, you, the patrons, the public, are walking through the gallery. So all of this movement is happening around you, and then you're moving as well as you pass through it. It's just a completely new medium. It's a new way of experiencing art.
And what's so beautiful with that as well is just that it's taking you inside the art. So for even people that have been lucky enough to see the original art, Tyler, as you know, my sister has a bed and breakfast in the south of France,
yes,
and then used to live in Paris as well. So we've been lucky to see some of his artwork in person, but this is new in that you're experiencing art in a totally different way.
Yeah, this is completely new, and it's so hard to describe until you've been to it. And when I went over to Paris to see the piece in Paris that Massimiliano created, trust me, the whole way over there, I'm flying and I'm thinking to myself, what is projected art? Why would anyone want to see it? And I already knew 2 million people had seen it in Paris. So I was like, why would anyone want to see it in a city where you can just go to the Louvre and see all this extraordinary original paintings that are world-class that are there? And what I saw was just, it's a completely new medium. It's somewhere between art exhibiting, filmmaking, and this experiential thing that you pass through, that you physically engage with. And it's so, what struck me at the time, and really strikes me now after the pandemic, is it's so rare to see a new medium of art. So we all know when you go to an art gallery, and most people have been doing that since they were kids. You go into an art gallery and the art is on the wall, there's a label, or maybe there's a sculpture. If you go to the cinema and you go to see a movie, you're sitting in a row and the movie's projected on the screen, and it could be the most incredible new film, but it's still the same format, the same medium that we've been experiencing since we were kids. And same with a Broadway show. You can go see Hamilton, which is incredible music, but it's still the idea. You show up at 8 o'clock, you sit in your seats. You don't see a new medium come up in life very often, and that's really what this is. It's something that if you haven't been to one of these, if you haven't been to a true immersive show, this is a completely mind-blowing new type of experience. And to come and have the chance to see that after a year in this pandemic, when none of us have been able to leave and have any of the normal artistic experiences, and now here's this opportunity to do something completely new. First of all, we all deserve it. So if you're listening out there, you deserve to see something new and exciting now.
But I will say with that, Corey, as well, because I went online, I've been seeing the ads, and I have a friend who got tickets, and so I was like, my birthday is this month. Let me go ahead and have my husband get me tickets for my birthday, because the show is actually not until November here in Detroit, correct?
Actually, it starts in October, but October is completely sold out. And we do have availability starting in November.
So when I was looking, it seemed like there were only a few days left in November. So it has really become so popular here in the States.
It's really been incredible. So we're open already in Chicago and San Francisco. We open next week in New York. But we have tickets on sale in 20 cities. And everywhere we go, the reaction is incredible. We've sold over 90,000 tickets in Detroit so far, which is extraordinary.
That is so awesome. And with that too, Corey, though, I have to wonder, when you said that it's part of the place that you go to visit it. So for us, it's going to be, I believe it's Cobo, or now TCF Center. Still always going to be Cobo for us old timers.
No, hold on a second. Let's not confuse people.
Okay.
So we have not announced a location in Detroit yet.
Oh, you haven't?
Massimiliano has a process where he creates the art around the location, and that takes a few months. So we're not opening till October, and we don't announce until about a month before, and we've done this in every city we've been to, because we want to give him the out. If for some reason the architecture isn't working and his process isn't working and he gets frustrated, he wants us to give him an opportunity to change. So if you're buying tickets now today, you're buying tickets to a secret location. And then we usually let everyone know there'll be a big announcement. It'll be a great PR stunt. I'll be able to come back on the show and talk about it. But right now there isn't a location. But let me clear up the confusion. So Massimiliano Siccardi, who I mentioned, has been doing this for 30 years in Europe, and he's sold millions of tickets. And he really is, in my opinion, the Steven Spielberg of the genre. He's really the guru and the guy. When we announced his show in North America, we started with Toronto last summer, where it was a huge success. And now, as I said, we have 3 other cities. But there's other imitators out there who are trying to do something similar to Massimiliano. In my opinion, not as good. They're not the originators. And one of them is coming this summer to Detroit. I don't need to give them more PR. I just need to say, don't be confused. When this group went on sale with their show originally in Miami about 3 months ago, they didn't even have any art for their show because they hadn't created it yet. They ran videos and photos of our show in their advertising. So I don't know what's going on out there. It's been an interesting adventure to have something this popular. I've never had something where there's multiple other parties trying to do the same thing.
Well, I'm so glad that you cleared that up as well. And I guess for me, I just assumed it would be there because that's where so many of these events go. But with that too, talk about the challenge of trying to redesign a show for each venue, which is different.
So Massimiliano's based in Rome. He has a whole team around him, and what they do is that's what they pride themselves on, is that how the show sits within the environment that it's in. And we've been really excited because in each city that we've gone to, we do something that brings it into the city that really is magical. So I'll give you, for instance, in Toronto, we went into the original printing press room of the Toronto Star building, which is really central in Toronto, right opposite the Air Canada Centre. You have to be near a hockey place in Toronto. But that's got a real industrial, it's a 50-year-old industrial building. Meanwhile, in Chicago, we've gone into something called Germania Club, which is this old German community center that was built in 1890, and it existed during Van Gogh's lifetime, and its architecture is neoclassical and completely different environment to the industrial environment that we did in Toronto. And then in San Francisco, we're in the original Fillmore Club, where the Grateful Dead and Janis Joplin got their start. And that, if anyone knows that room, if you were in there in the 60s and early 70s when it was an active club, it's got these incredible arabesque archways. And again, is completely unique and different. And in New York City, which is opening the next week, and we'll run there all summer. There we've gone into a pier that's on the water, which is actually, from an architecture standpoint, somewhat nondescript compared to the other places that I've just described to you. But what we've done there is we've brought in David Corrins, who's the set designer of the musical Hamilton, and he's created the environment. So in each city, we kind of try to go into something that's really fitting with the city, and even in New York, so we brought Broadway to the show. And we'll find something, well, when we announce it, you'll see that we found something similar in Detroit.
Corey Ross with us here on the Megacast. He's the co-producer for the Immersive Van Gogh exhibit, which is coming here to the Motor City in October and November. And with that, Corey, where are you located right now?
I'm in Toronto.
Okay, so I will say, I'm sure you probably have already eyed a location here in Detroit, but I would love to see it in the old train station that Ford has recently purchased and is renovating right now.
It would be very cool in there. I'm going to stay quiet, but it would be very cool in there.
Not that I'm trying to get you to tell any secrets at all, but, it's been so great to see them try to rehab that old building as well, and it would just be amazing. So with that, Corey, too, can you talk a little bit more about the technology behind this exhibit? Sure.
It's a massive installation, so we're not doing a touring show that kind of loads in and stays for a short while, and each city is so unique that it really is large scale. The exhibit is 500,000 cubic feet of projection surface, 90 million pixels of projection, and something like what is it like? I'm trying to do the translation from kilometers to miles. I think it's 20 miles of fiber optic cables. So those are all big numbers. But the key is that we have state-of-the-art Panasonic projectors, and they focus in on every space. Every surface in the space, so the floors, the walls, columns, archways, they're all illuminated by the art, and it really is sort of completely new technology that you wouldn't have seen applied in this way previously. We are the largest purchasers of Panasonic projectors in the world right now.
Well, look at that. See, it's so amazing, the things that you find out. Corey, what's it been like for you to be the co-producer of this here and taking it around the world and doing it in the middle of a global pandemic?
Well, it's been a combination of exhilarating and scary. We were already involved in this project, and we're building it in the Toronto Star building in Toronto last year in March when the pandemic hit. We had millions of dollars on the line in Toronto, and we had to think, how are we going to do this and what are we going to do? And we ended up being really the leaders on how you can open any type of experiential in-person show during the pandemic. We got open in July last year in Toronto. And what we did in Toronto, which is unique, we're not doing this in Detroit, although I know you are a car city. In Toronto, we opened 2 versions of the show simultaneously. We built the entire exhibit twice. We built one for walk-in, which is the original way that it's conceived, and frankly, the best way of seeing the show. But we also created a parallel gallery that was right next door to the gallery with walk-in, where we allowed people to drive in. There was an old ramp up the back of the Toronto Star building where people could drive their cars up, and the Toronto Star vans used to go in there to pick up the newspapers off the press. So we created this experience where you drive up inside a building, down a hallway, and into the gallery.
Wow.
And when we opened in July of last year, the press around that idea was one of the first drive-ins, you have to think back to a year ago. It was one of the first drive-ins, so we had extraordinary press on it, and we had extraordinary demand. We had people coming into the drive-in from 8 in the morning till 3 in the morning, 7 days a week. It was completely sold out. But more importantly, over in the walk-in version, we were one of the first cultural places to do temperature checking and masks, and we projected social distancing circles and integrated them into the projections on the floor in the exhibit. And I was worried about that because, like, these big circles that people are being directed to stand in, and so what would happen is you would stand in one and then move to the next one as someone else moved around, so you could move around and through the experience. But I thought to myself, aren't these circles going to disturb people? But they ended up fitting so well with Van Gogh's art. Circular shapes are a big part of what he does, and they kind of sit in magically. So you're probably seeing that on your social media feed, because most of our photos still have people in masks and circles. But so we developed all these things. We had over 250,000 people come through in Toronto safely, and then we've rolled them out across our other venues. So we have that in Chicago and in San Francisco right now.
And with that, it's been such a popular event. Do you anticipate that this type of medium is going to continue with other artists' work as well?
I think so for sure, and I also don't think that it's limited to art to artists. So Massimiliano will naturally, he's already thinking about the next artist to create, but I also just see it as a completely new type of storytelling. So if you begin to think about the future of even movies, right? So right now, I think that's a very challenged business because you can see most everything on Netflix that you need to see, and we have great televisions in our homes now, and so the AMC and the other distributors and movie cinema people are, in my opinion, have challenges and will continue to have challenges. But storytelling in this type of environment where you pass through is a completely new way of experiencing it. So I think maybe the next Mission Impossible film will be one where you come through our galleries and you're running through there with Tom Cruise on the adventure and dodging obstacles and having the whole experience with them. It's so rich with possibilities, and I can't wait to see what comes next. Now that artists are beginning to see it, I think the creativity is just going to, our phone is ringing, will continue to ring with artists that have incredible creative ideas as to what to do with the technology.
I love to see people that think big and outside of the box, and that's so many artists as well, because it's about it's about their love and their passion for the artwork, and obstacles aren't really in their way. They'll find a way to overcome them. And with that, Corey, just another couple minutes with you here on the Megacast. So when someone goes in for the first time, is it like a 30-minute program, an hour program? Does it teach you about Van Gogh, or are you just immersed in the art?
Okay, so typically it's about an hour, and we have some educational components. It's different than what you might see if you went to see Van Gogh at the Van Gogh Museum in Amsterdam. This isn't a story that's a narrative that tells you about Van Gogh's life. It's not. We don't have big labels on the wall that tell you what Van Gogh did in 1872, and so it's not that. Although we do have an audio guide that you can listen to in advance. What you're experiencing inside the exhibit is completely visceral. So it's this crazy stream of consciousness narrative that tries to take you inside the mind of Van Gogh. Massimiliano Saccardi's concept was that he would try to reimagine what flashed before Van Gogh's eyes in the moments before he passed away. And what we do is we license from the greatest museums in the world 400 images of Van Gogh's art. But these images are just the raw material. Massimiliano deconstructs them, animates them, and puts them together. One morphs into the other, which morphs into the next. And as I said, it's all choreographed to music. So all of this comes together as something completely new, and it's not particularly educational. It's more emotional. It's more a visual adventure to go on.
And so with that too, I love it because it feels like it opens up the art world to the regular person. Because when you go to the Louvre, you go to some of these big art galleries, you can feel a bit intimidated by some of those that live and exist in the art community. And this to me feels like it really just makes it accessible to everyone.
Absolutely. It's really accessible. When we survey our audiences and ask why they're coming, we have a huge group that comes on date night. It's an awesome date night. We have a lot of young people between the ages of 20 and 50 coming on date nights. It's also a great family outing. Kids love it. It's very playful. They can play with the images. It's projected everywhere, including on you. If you come wearing something light white, for instance, then it really shows up on you. So it's very playful and very fun and appeals to a very wide audience. But there's also no reason why it shouldn't be interesting to true art aficionados. You just have to come in understanding that you're about to experience something completely new and different. And in that way, it's quite charming as well.
I love that, but it also opens up Van Gogh's artwork, because I will say, going to the Louvre and seeing the Mona Lisa for the first time, you were a little bit disappointed because it's been such a major part of our story throughout the country when it comes to art, and then when you go to see the picture, it's actually small. And so this is such a great way to...
There's nothing about our exhibit that's small. Don't worry about that. 500,000 square feet of projection is not small, it's massive. So you will not be underwhelmed by the size, guaranteed.
Corey Ross with us, co-producer, Immersive Van Gogh exhibit coming here to Detroit after being a part of the European world. It's now coming here to North America, and we're so lucky that you guys picked Detroit. Corey, anything maybe I didn't ask that you want our listeners and viewers to know before we say goodbye?
No, the tickets are at immersivevangogh.com. So that's where to go to get the tickets, and we just can't wait to get to Detroit with this.
And I will say, I was online trying to find tickets, not a lot left, but for all the guys out there, this is, like you said, Corey, major bonus points for a date night.
All right, perfect. Great chatting with you.
You too. Thank you for your time. We appreciate it, and best of luck on the exhibit.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll be joined by the Oakland County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center Director. That's next here on the Megacast.
In times like these, we have to believe in each other.
And we believe that you'll do the right thing.
When it comes to stopping the spread of COVID.
Follow the 3 W's.
Wear a mask.
Wash your hands. Watch your distance.
And when it's your turn to get the vaccine, take your shot.
It all comes down to the golden rule.
Treat others the way you want to be treated.
We're so close, Michigan.
We can do this together.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Over a decade ago, the journey to a COVID vaccine began. Building upon research on other coronaviruses, scientists continued with months of research and development, 3 phases of clinical trials with tens of thousands of diverse volunteers, then peer review and authorization to deliver a safe and effective vaccine that will protect all of us. Discover the facts for yourself at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
Great to have you with us here on the Megacast. I'm Ronnie Dahl here in the studio alongside Mr. Tyler Keep. Back together again, Tyler.
Yes, we are. Second day in a row. We haven't been in the studio this many days in a row in forever.
That is so true. As a reminder, you can always catch us Monday through Friday, 10 a.m. until noon, Civic Center TV, Birmingham Area Municipal Access. Catch us on Channel 15 on Comcast 99. On AT&T, and you can listen to us on the radio, 89.3 Lakes FM, 88.1 FM The Biff. And if that is not enough for you, we're also live streaming today's edition of the Megacast on our Facebook page as well, which makes us the Megacast. You can get us anywhere.
Yep, we get you all. We make sure that we're available all over the place. We'll also be available on demand after the show. So if you miss parts of the program, you can always view individual interviews or the entire show on our website. Just go to civiccentertv.com/megacast.
And so, Tyler, we've been talking to several animal rescue groups throughout the pandemic, and they've seen so many adoptions throughout this time as more and more people have been spending time at home. The kids are at home. They're adopting new pets. But I often wonder as well what's going to happen as we start to resume life as normal. Let's bring in Joni Toole. She's the chief over at the Oakland County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. Joni, great to have you with us today.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
So what's it been like for you and your team over the past year?
It's been very crazy. Most people got to work from home, but unfortunately here we couldn't do that. So what happened when we shut down is our whole staff got together and helped out, and actually we use prisoners or inmates from the Oakland County Jail, usually to clean, and they pulled them, so that really threw us for a loop. So all the staff had to pull together, and we cleaned and we fed and we We did all of that for a few months there, so it was pretty crazy.
Yeah, and we've been talking about as people start to return to the office, we have to remember there are so many people throughout the pandemic that have not had that luxury. You are on the front lines, and the pets still need to be cared for each and every day.
Yes, they do. And like I said, it was hard. I mean, but everybody, we have such a passion here and a love for animals that we all just chipped in and helped. It was really a no-brainer to us. So, and another thing I want to mention, you had said something about, people fostering and getting more animals during the pandemic. Before we shut down, we knew we were going to shut down. We knew that message was coming. So we worked with a rescue group, Do Only Good. They're here in the building every single day helping. And they got out 89 dogs before the shutdown.
Wow.
Into foster homes, yes. And the majority of those did not return. So they were all what we call foster fails or, foster successes, honestly. So, yeah, they did a wonderful job, and we thank them every day for what they did for us before we shut down.
Yeah, and we know I have a foster fail dog as well, and every day I'm still like, is she still here? And my husband's like, once she came to this house, she wasn't going away. But with that too, if I can ask you, Joni, because we did see the great stories of where these shelters were empty. Did you get to that point or no?
No, we didn't, because we are a local shelter, a municipal shelter. We take in animals all the time, so we never stopped doing that. Our road officers, like you said, we were on the front lines. We were still working. We were still picking up strays. We were still continuing to answer animal bite calls, cruelty calls, all that kind of things going on in the background. So we never got empty. We just kind of filled up again while all these other dogs were out in foster. But along with that rescue group, we have kept a fairly good stream of animals going out as they're coming in.
Yeah, and can we talk about that as well? Because we do know when you're dealing with animals that come from a shelter, a lot of times you don't know their background. And there's some training that goes along with that because they do have maybe a few issues. Let's just put it that way. And so are you worried that you're going to start to see some of those animals return?
Well, with the rescue that helps us, they offer free training for the foster family or the adoptive family. So that's a wonderful way to get people into that and at least get them trained with the basics, sitting and not jumping and that kind of thing. So we feel as though as if we can get people in that direction into training and basic behavioral training, that the animal will stay where it's at. Now, you're correct. We don't know anything about most of our dogs. 75% of our population is stray dogs, so we don't know anything about them. 25% are owners surrender. We know a little bit more about them if people are honest with us when they bring them to us. But we still don't know how they're going to react here at the shelter or in a different home. So that's always a worry that we have, that the animal is going to acclimate to their new surroundings and that type of thing. And we always try to tell people training, get the dog into training. It's the best thing for both of you because you're both learning something together. I think it reinforces that bond between you and the dog. So yes, I think training is a very good, important tool when adopting out shelter pets.
Yeah, Trixie has trained us well. We just haven't trained her well.
Oh, no.
I was laughing because my husband, when I was leaving, he's like, "See you later." I'm like, I thought he was taking her for a walk. No, I hear the car start up because she gets pesty because she wants to go to the park. And she's like, no, she has to go to Dodge Park and see her boyfriend, Chester.
Of course.
Oh, there you go.
So with that, though, Joni as well, what's the most unusual animal? Because, we always associate dogs and cats with the animal shelter. What's been the most unusual one that's come through your doors?
Well, we had a prairie dog at one time. That was a while ago. We've had a cougar. We've had several alligators.
Wait.
Yeah, I know. Someone left an alligator at our front door, if you can believe it or not. Yeah, it was pretty crazy.
I hate to be the one that opened up that door.
Exactly. So, yeah, it's amazing what people will acquire, and then they realize they simply cannot handle them anymore, so they leave them here. But yeah, we get birds, we get lizards, we get turtles, we get all kinds of stuff here. So yeah, not just dogs and cats.
I'm thinking about the story that's been going around in Houston with the tiger that has been roaming the neighborhood. Yeah. And I do remember knowing a guy, when I lived in Charleston, and he went on to the NFL, and he got a tiger.
Oh.
But those tigers grow up.
They do.
Yes, they do.
Large animals.
Not a pet.
No.
Well, if you remember many years ago, Oakland County had its own panther. Remember when everybody was seeing the panther? I think it was in Milford Township. So we've had our share of weird things roaming around in Oakland County as well.
Yeah, I think I remember, was it a panther that was loose in the old Packer plant? Because they were doing some commercial or modeling shoot in there, and the panther got loose.
Oh.
And, we have to remember that these are animals. They're not a backdrop. And so with that, Joni Toole with us here on the Megacast. She's the chief over at the Oakland County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. And if we can ask too, we're kind of coming out of the pandemic. Are things getting back to normal there for you and your team at the shelter?
Well, we're still doing a few things that we've learned over the pandemic, which one was appointments. So if you want to come and see what we have for adoption, we ask that you make an appointment. It just makes it easier for our staff to walk you through and explain everything. Before, we just had everybody just kind of come in the building and just kind of walk around. But we found it's very helpful to us and helpful to our customers if we can do that one-on-one. So we're keeping the appointment basis. But the next thing I think that will probably be worrisome to us is everybody going back to work maybe, and these dogs that they've adopted through the pandemic, what's going to happen then? And that's kind of our outlook right now. We're kind of looking down the road, hoping that we don't see an increase in owner surrenders.
Yeah, because it really is, there's a method. You have to adjust your dog to you not being there for 8-9 hours out of the day.
Exactly. And keeping them occupied and out of trouble, because we all know if they get bored, they start to get into trouble. So, yeah, we're hoping that we don't see an increase in owner surrenders. We're hoping that we can guide people if they do have issues to either a trainer or some other resource that they can find help that way.
So with that, Joni, too, can I ask you, for so many of us, it's been a virtual world, at least the connection with the outside world. How important has social media been to you and your team during this time?
Oh, I think social media is always been a huge part of us communicating to the public and our customers and our citizens. And it's been even more through the pandemic, because I think a lot of people turned to that instead of coming in. A lot of the volunteers were nervous about coming back, so they would follow us on Facebook. And social media is just a huge part of any animal rescue organization. So it's very important to us.
Well, that's how we ended up with our dog, was following way too many animal rescue groups on on Facebook, and they keep popping up. And I really feel like so many shelters and rescue groups, Huron Valley is where our old dog came from, the Cocker Spaniel. And so you start following, and then you donate to them in memory of your dog. But it's the stories, and it just it connects you. Whereas we would never have found Trixie had I not been scrolling through Facebook.
Yes, and getting our animals on those social media platforms is very important to us as well. So everybody here at the building kind of helps out. A lot of our kennel attendants walk the dogs on their lunch hours, and they take video and they take photographs, and just promoting them on those social media platforms really helps them get homes.
So you mentioned a few moments ago briefly about volunteers. How is that world looking for you in the shelter? Are volunteers coming back?
They are coming back. Not in droves, but they are coming back, especially ones that have been vaccinated. And we encourage people to, come in and spend time with the animals. There's so much that you can do for them here at the shelter through enrichment, which they make treats for them, just spending time with them. And even the kids get involved too with, we have a program, reading to the pets. And the kids will come in and read to the cats or the dogs, and that's the part I love the most. We even had someone who was in band come in and play their instrument for the animals, so that was awesome as well. So yeah, you can be very creative with what you can give these animals here at the shelter.
You're listening to 89.3 WBLD Orchard Lake, 88.1 WBFH Bloomfield Hills, and I love that you mentioned that because we do know, like, the library used to have that program where they would bring in like a therapy dog and kids could read and pet the dog. So it was really kind of more aimed at the child, teaching them to read and read aloud. But this is kind of both worlds, so, because the pets, shelter dogs need that human interaction.
They do. They really long for it, and it's very hard in a shelter situation to give them that unless you have wonderful volunteers, wonderful staff that can spend the time with them. So we'd love to have the kids come back, and hopefully that's soon, that they start coming in droves as well to read to the animals and just spend time with them.
It's a summertime. This is a great project and a great way for parents too. Especially when the kid is like, "Mommy, Daddy, I need a dog," and that's a lot of work. This is kind of a great way to, bridge that gap.
And that's what I tell the kids, especially when I loved going to schools and telling the kids about our place. And you don't have to have a dog. You can come to the shelter and have a dog for an hour. So yes, I love to have the kids come in with their families. It's a nice place for the families to come and visit the animals and see what we have. And I think the kids really enjoy it.
We're talking with Joni O'Toole. She's the chief over at the Oakland County Animal Control and Pet Adoption Center. Just another minute or two with you here on the show before we say goodbye. With that, if people do want to volunteer or donate, do you still take donations? Like, I know a lot of rescues typically need towels and blankets and food. What is that like for you guys over there at the shelter?
Yes, we're no different. Food, we kind of ask for specific kind of food because we don't want to upset the animals' stomachs here, but we will take anything because if we can't use it, we know someone else can. So if you have, a bag of food that your animal is, putting their nose up to, they don't want to eat it, we'd be more than happy to take that. Of course, volunteering and monetary donations are also welcome. But I think the volunteering part, coming in and spending time with the animals and making enrichment treats for them, I think that's probably the most rewarding for us and for our volunteers.
We all need the volunteers. My girlfriend, she had a rescue, one of those rescue foster fails, and then when Milo passed away, she said, I don't have the time to get another dog, so now she just fosters, and a lot of times she'll bring home a dog for the weekend, or she goes to the shelter and walks the dogs, and she gets her dog fix, and they get attention and love.
That's right. That's a win-win situation there, and we love that.
So with that too, Joni, I know that today is the deadline for the dog license?
Was actually yesterday.
Okay,
Unfortunately, today they are delinquent. Sorry, guys. But, yeah.
But it's important to still get them.
Yes, very important. Yes, very important.
So with that, is this something that they can do online? Because we live in Gogh, so we used to just go to the City Hall, but City Hall was closed. You had to call, make an appointment. So we ended up getting ours through our vet. How does it work there at Oakland County?
You can purchase them online. You can go to our website, and there's a link there, and that's at oakgov.com/pet adoption. And you can go to your city or township or village office if they're accepting you there in person. You can also come to the animal shelter in person and get that as well. Of course, we ask that you make an appointment. And like you mentioned, we do have a lot of participating veterinarians that sell them as well. So if you're going in for your yearly spring visit with your pet, be sure to ask your veterinarian if they sell the dog licenses there.
Well, Joni, we so appreciate your time today. The next time we have you on the show, we need some four-legged friends with you.
I know. I thought about that, and yes, next time I will definitely have a four-legged friend on with me.
Well, it's been so great talking to you. We appreciate your time, but also extend our gratitude and our thanks to you and your entire team and all the volunteers. I know it's been a hard year, but you continued the work of taking care of our pets. So thank you so much.
Thank you so much for that.
We'll take a quick break here on the Megacast. Still a lot to get to in the second hour of the show.
Wearing a mask is more than protection. It's a bridge to better days. The path back to celebrations with family. Nights out on the town with friends. Game days with your favorite sports teams. And the thrill of live concerts. But until we can all get the COVID-19 vaccine and build community immunity, which will take time, we all need to continue to stay careful. Because Michigan's recovery is depending on you, and so are your family, friends, and neighbors. So even after you're vaccinated, wear a mask, avoid large gatherings, and social distance. One day in the near future, we will all be able to put this pandemic behind us. But until then, spread hope, not COVID. Learn more at michigan.gov/coronavirus. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
I want to get back to seeing my grandbabies every Sunday and smothering them with big hugs and kisses.
I want to get back to football games with my boys.
I want to get back to feeling and touching, connecting with the people around me.
I want to get back to family dinners and my grandma's mac and cheese.
I want to get back to real grocery shopping. Taking my time, walking down every aisle, smelling the tomatoes and melons, having a free sample or two, or 3.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the first step that let us get back to feeling optimistic about the days ahead of us. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I get it?
Should I wait?
Now, get the facts. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
We want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us here on the Megacast. As a reminder, maybe you don't have 2 hours to spend with us each and every day. We kind of understand, but we do make it easy for you. You can catch previous episodes of the Megacast on civiccentertv.com. Just click on the Megacast, or if you just want to watch an individual interview, you can do that as well by clicking on the on-demand section. You know, it's been a tough time for so many people behind bars right now, and for their family members as we continue to struggle with the COVID-19 pandemic. But there is a group of people behind bars. They've been working on trying to get their college degree while serving their time. So what's it been like for them? We want to go ahead and bring in Todd Shafi. He is the director for the Kelvin Prison Initiative. Todd, it's great to have you with us on the show. I will say, reading about your initiative and this project, thank you for doing it.
You're welcome. Again, it's been nothing but a privilege for us to begin this program and now to continue the program. We get way back more than we give.
And so with that, Todd, if we could just bring the listeners and the viewers that maybe aren't familiar with this initiative, give us a background.
Sure. So about just over a decade ago, Kelvin Theological Seminary became inspired to offer non-credit bearing, non-accredited courses at the Richard Handlin Prison in Ionia, Michigan. And they would offer simply one course a semester, one in the fall, one in the spring, one in the summer. And they started off with maybe 20 or 25 students, and they just wanted to see what's possible, what could happen. Well, it turned out that the students in these courses were phenomenal. They just soaked everything up that a professor had to offer. And they were great students. And the professors would often leave saying, gee, that was one of the better educational experiences I've had as an instructor. And so that went on for a number of years. And the students who were in this non-accredited program finally said, we would love to earn something for all this work. You know, we're writing the papers, taking the exams, we're getting grades. We sure would love a diploma. And that seemed reasonable. But now this is Kelvin Seminary, so it's a graduate school. Mm-hmm. So they said, well, we can't offer an undergraduate degree, which is what most of you need. And so that's when they reached out to then Kelvin College. Now we're Kelvin University. And they partnered with us in 2015, June of 2015. And we together now constructed a BA in Faith and Community Leadership. It's a 5-year program. We admit 20 students a year for 5 years. So at any given time, we have 100 students, 100 student body. And they take all the same courses that a student would on the main campus here at Kelvin University. So they're taking philosophy and history and English literature, and then they major in faith and community leadership. So we do get students who are Christian, who want to see themselves as faith leaders within a prison setting. But we also get a lot of students from other religious traditions, Muslim, we have Buddhist, Native American, or we get students who don't associate with a religious tradition, and they want to be community leaders, moral community leaders. And so we thought we'll try this. It's accredited. And so now Kelvin University technically has 2 campuses, one here in Grand Rapids and then one in Ionia behind bars. And these students, after 5 years, get a BA from Kelvin University. And so now we've been doing this for just over 6 years, and we have 2 graduating classes who receive their BAs. And so it's just been fantastic. And like the Kelvin Seminary professors, our university professors say the same thing. These are amazing students. They do all the work. So as a professor myself, I know very well when I assign reading or whatever on the main campus, I know students are looking to cut corners. They're looking to get by with as little work as possible at times, not within the prison setting. You will often find students who read the assignment not once, not twice, but 3 times. They want to master it. Consequently, our students in Ionia, they outpace our main campus students with GPA by far.
Wow.
Average GPA in the prison is 3.6. We have many students who graduate with honors, and then we have many students who achieve a 4.0. And this is legitimate. This is the same education that you would receive in Grand Rapids. Same professors, same curriculum, same accreditation. And so we've been just so impressed and blessed, really, by our students. And so that's why I said at the beginning, we receive way more than we give.
But you're also giving to the community as well, because we have to remember so many times, you know, people that end up in the criminal justice system for whichever reason, they get out and they, you know, rejoin our society. So we need to give them opportunities to be productive members of our society.
Yes, without a doubt. So if we think nationally, 95% of those incarcerated right now will eventually get out. So we have to ask the question, no matter what we think about crime and punishment, we simply have to ask the question, what kind of people do we want to see get out? What kind of people do we want to see re-enter our communities, possibly be our neighbors? And if we take someone who went into prison at a young age and say did 20, 25, 30 years, and there really wasn't a lot in terms of opportunity for rehabilitation or development, well, I think it's obvious what kind of person more than likely will be coming out. A person who is not prepared to re-enter society, a person who does not have the wherewithal or the resources to become a productive member of society. And like anybody, you would resort to what you need to get by. And the last time they were in society, that was crime. And so the recidivism rate across the country on the whole is upwards of 70%. The rate at which somebody returns to prison after having been out for 3 years.
Wow.
We can do better. And so we know now, through research in the last several decades, that higher education programming is the best way to address issues of rehabilitation, recidivism, and productivity once reentry occurs.
And not, even because I know for you and your team it's a BA, but even if it's a trade, we have to give them the opportunities and the skills to be able to rejoin our society. We're all going to be better because of it. And Todd, can I ask you to talk about some of the students? Because do you have more applications than you can accept?
Without a doubt. And now the word is out. And so we have folks applying. There's roughly 30 prisons that are active in Michigan currently. We have access in terms of security issues and whatnot. We have access to just over 15 of those prisons that we can receive students from. And now I'd say the word is out to where people are applying from all those prisons. Mm-hmm. And unfortunately, we are the only full-fledged BA program in the state of Michigan. So if you are incarcerated and want to earn a BA, you'd have to go through Kelvin University at this point. So we do get a lot of applicants who want the full degree. There are other schools, community colleges mostly, who are offering associate's degree, and that's great, that's good. But unfortunately, we're the only BA program. So we do get a lot of applications, and we get them from all sorts of inmates. So we get applications from guys who maybe earned 60 credit hours at one point in their life, maybe even earned a degree. They just want another one now. Perhaps now they've even become a person of faith and want that faith degree. And then we get students who earn their GED in prison. In fact, a lot of our students, not uncommon, they learn to read in prison. And so one of our students who's currently in his 4th year, 5-year program, so he has one more to go, he came to prison without being able to read.
Wow.
So he said that in the county jail, as he was awaiting trial, he was in one cell, one person on the left, one person on the right, and they began talking about a novel they had read. As he was listening to this, it sounded almost as if they were describing a movie. It was so vivid. And he wanted that. He wanted to know this. So he said, hey, can I borrow that novel? He didn't tell them he couldn't read. He took that novel and he spent 1 month sounding out every word. And he went back through the novel and he used that novel to begin to develop basic reading skills.
Wow.
After that, he began to read anything he could get his hands on. He jokes, I even began to read the rules. I just wanted to read. Then he got involved in Shakespeare Behind Bars several years ago, and he read Shakespeare's plays and performed them. Then he heard about our program, got in, and now he has a 3.6 GPA, and he is eager for any and every course we can give him. And so as he would say now, reading and education completely changed his life. And it opened up his world in ways that he didn't know, whether it's the world of a novel, the world of Shakespearean plays, or the world, his favorite subject right now is geology. And so he is shocked almost, in the best sense, that now this is all available, stuff he had no idea existed before. So these are the kind of students we get. Unfortunately, his story is not uncommon. I would say easily about 70% of our students, prior to incarceration, they had no idea they would ever be in college. That wasn't on the radar, it wasn't talked about, it wasn't encouraged. In fact, many of them dropped out of high school or were kicked out. And so all their educational experience took place in prison. And so I'm absolutely convinced the more education we can offer people, the better results we will get in terms of the person and our society.
So with that too, Todd, how do you pick and choose? Who gets to attend your program and who doesn't?
Right. We use the exact same application we would on the main campus. We tweak it to fit the prison setting. But we decided from day one that we did not want to offer a Kelvin Light degree. We wanted to offer them the same degree that you get on the main campus here in Grand Rapids. And so that's where we started. And so we have very high standards. We only will admit students we think will be successful in the program. At the same time, for those students who don't get in, we are looking to develop other programs to get them college ready. We used to run a program actually at our facility that was nothing but college readiness before COVID, and we hope to continue that. And then once they fill out that application, we assess it in the same way we would any application. So they need letters of reference. They need past experience of leadership. It's a leadership program. They need to show some academic potential. And perhaps more than anything else, we need to get a sense that they are 100% committed to this project. I often will tell our students, I can work with you academically. If you need help with reading or writing a paper, that's what we do, we're educators. But I cannot educate for desire. You have to have the desire. If you give me desire, I will get you through. But you have to generate the desire. But that would be true on the main campus, right?
Yeah.
In the main campus, they don't desire this education, and they just don't do well.
We're talking with Todd Shafi. He is the director for the Kelvin Prison Initiative. And with that, Todd, if I can ask you, what's it been like with COVID? Because our prisons have been in lockdown.
Exactly. So like everybody, when COVID started, we just assumed, oh, it'll be a week or two. And that turned into a month. And we said, well, surely this can't go on past 2 or 3 months. And so we began to just piecemeal whatever we could to keep the program running. It wasn't working well. But I think after about 3 or so months, we realized this is here to stay. And so we had to come up with a better plan. Now, as it turned out, we had a digital system in place prior to COVID where we could take what amounts to a big travel drive full of information, papers, readings, whatever the case, download it onto a system in the prison. Each of our students has a laptop. They can upload this material. They could write papers, do whatever they needed, and then download it, and we would take that out of the prison. Well, it turned out that system is what saved our program. So while many programs in Michigan that were offering some education in prisons had to completely stop through COVID, we've been able to continue this whole time. So we haven't missed a semester. Now, I'm not going to say it was easy. It's been very challenging. As we all learned, at some points we thought the virus could live on hard surfaces, so we couldn't put books into the facility or any kind of hard material. So we had to continually adapt and adjust according to what we were all learning about COVID, and the prisons had to adjust about what it was to run a prison within a pandemic. So we have nearly 1,300 prisoners at our facility, and at one point they had just under 1,000 positive cases. And so the Department of Corrections was learning too about, what do you do? How do you handle that? We would think isolate, but you're already in a very compressed, compact setting. 2 men to a cell. Well, how do you isolate it now? So it took several months for everybody to figure it out. I think once we did, things got smoother, and now most of the facilities are no longer locked down. And so we were just told recently that we might be available to go back to face-to-face instruction within about a week or 2.
That's great news. I think about the challenges, even traditional college students that have been learning remote, but they also have access to the internet 24/7. Prisoners don't.
Yes. So we've been having discussions with the Department of Corrections folks in Lansing for years about what would it mean to have internet. There's a concern, of course, that if you put internet into a prison, what might happen? Well, we started slowly. I'd say about 6 months ago or so, we asked if we could have a Polycom system set up, which is a kind of live feed conferencing system. And it works on just one telephone line, basically. And you can communicate live stream. Well, we did that, and it works beautifully. So about several months ago, we were able to see our students for the first time in almost a year through a live feed. And that's allowed us to now kind of enhance our instruction again. And we are currently installing internet at our facility. And we had several of our Kelvin IT people come up with what we think is a great design, very secure. It got accepted by all the right folks in Lansing. And so we're going to pilot the internet now for our program, which is going to allow more resources to be available, again, live streaming. And we could even do live events here on campus that now we could get into the facility via internet.
See, there's always a silver lining if we kind of look at it, because that conversation with some of the people in Lansing may have been 10, 15 years down the road. You were able to make it happen. Todd, it's
nothing like a good crisis. Move some things forward.
It is so true. And with that, Todd, too, I love the program and the work that you're doing, and I hope that this is picked up nationally at other prisons as well.
It has indeed. So we kind of were inspired by a prison in Louisiana, Angola. Biggest penitentiary in the country. At one time, it was the bloodiest prison in the U.S. And the warden, starting in the mid-90s, it took him about 15 years, but he turned that prison around to where they saw violence drop over 80%.
Wow.
Over 6,000 prisoners there. And they were able to create a very secure environment, but an environment with a lot of trust and responsibility. And he did it all through educational programming. So that's what inspired us. And we've looked around the country at times, and there are some programs out there that do very creative and risky work, saying for decades, our approach to the incarcerated is just more lockdown, more security. And there are some states, some facilities who are saying that's not getting the results we wanted. What if we tried a different approach? Give them opportunities for responsibility, respect, dignity, the whole bit. And so nationally, there are now programs out there that are starting to rise to the top and begin to act as models for states, for other schools, for other prisons, to say, you know what, we can do incarceration differently. And if we do, we'll get different results. And so now Michigan, our program here in Michigan has been highlighted on a national level. And we're just thrilled to be part of that conversation, to really see what we can offer as a model and inspiration for the whole country. And we're really at a crossroads, I think, where people are ready for true prison reform. And, you know, interestingly, in this particular time we're in, it's getting bipartisan support. And it's getting it actually here in Michigan.
Imagine that after the year we've had.
So I think our prisons are going to help us reform in lots of ways.
Well, Todd, we so appreciate your time as well as the conversation. We're running a little bit behind, but we'd love to have you back on the show to talk a little bit more. Maybe you can bring a member of the program or even a graduate. We'd love to hear from them as well on their experience. But again, our gratitude to you and your time, but your entire staff. And thank you for believing in a population that so many others have given up on.
Well, thank you so much for having me, and I'd love to come back with some of our students.
Oh, that'd be great. Again, Kelvin Prison Initiative. If you Google it, you'll find so much information. And again, Todd, we thank you for your time.
Thank you.
We're going to take a quick break here on the Megacast. When we come back, we'll switch the conversation around just a little bit. We are going to head to downtown Detroit and check in with one of our favorite distilleries to see how they are managing as we emerge from the pandemic. This is the Oakland County Megacast.
Finally, I just got my COVID-19 vaccine.
I registered with my local health department and they called me.
I got mine at the pharmacy, and my neighbor got hers from the hospital.
I'm not a techie person, so I called the COVID hotline, and they helped me schedule an appointment.
Get vaccinated with the first vaccine you can. Protect us all.
Learn more at michigan.gov/COVID vaccine.
Quitting smoking can improve your health, but it also protects your loved ones from secondhand smoke. Did you know there's no risk-free level of exposure to secondhand smoke? Smoke from cigarettes, e-cigs, and hookah can travel through ventilation systems and harm those around you. So clear the air and stop secondhand smoke. Call the Michigan Tobacco Quit Line at 1-800-784-8669. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
COVID-19 has caused many families to fall behind on finances and on groceries. But you're not alone. You shouldn't have to worry about putting food on the table. My Bridges offers access to quality food and income assistance to help families across the state get the food support they need. It's easy to apply and easy to start shopping. Apply for services at michigan.gov/MIBridges. A message from the Michigan Department of Health and Human Services.
Thank you for being with us here on the Megacast. It's been a year of transition. And for so many people, we've had to become a little bit creative in not only how we work, but for so many business owners, also how they survive this pandemic. And I think a great example of that is the Detroit City Distillery, located in downtown Detroit. We want to go ahead and bring in Garrett Passiak. He's the brand ambassador. Garrett, I want to change positions with you right now.
Okay, absolutely.
You come stand here and I'll stand where you are.
Oh boy.
All right, yeah. I mean, if you'd like, we've got everything ready for you.
You know, you guys have such a unique story, and you've done such an amazing job throughout the pandemic. I'm sure it hasn't been business as usual, but you've been creative too in trying to survive this. So talk a little bit about the past year. Remember when this was only going to be 2 weeks to flatten the curve?
Exactly, yeah. So what we did, I always tell people, especially when you're in the service industry, the bar industry, you're always thinking on a whim, and you always have to, you have to pivot, not panic, all right? So once we heard about that, and we thought it was just gonna be 2 weeks, and then of course we got the news, it is going to be probably a very long time. What Detroit City Distillery did with our facility as a distillery, we said, let's start making hand sanitizer, folks. Made over 30,000 gallons of hand sanitizer.
I still have my gallon, by the way. Yeah. I was always afraid I was going to be pulled over by the cops and had to say, no, really, I haven't been drinking. It's my hand sanitizer.
Yeah, that was very common because, yeah, it's a gallon full of moonshine, basically, is what it is. That's why you saw a lot of distilleries and breweries making that hand sanitizer. So that was our first move. Then we kind of felt it out a little bit. Of course, we obviously didn't have any problems with, stuff in our stores. Stores, a lot of people were stocking up. But then that kind of fine line when everything started to kind of like loosely lighten up and everyone was watching the news, every day of what we can do. What we decided to do is just go ahead and luckily, with cooperation from the city and Eastern Market, very, very gracious to them, they allowed us to open our bar, socially distanced street bar party. All right. And then you had a lot of restrictions that were kind of, unleashed, and we were able to go ahead and do to-go cocktails. And we were just really grateful for the weather, and that's what we did. And to this day, we are open, and we're super excited. We got the street permit till Halloween, so we'll be out there 5 days a week, Wednesday through Sunday, just having a nice block party all summer long. And we always love, of course, showcasing the star of summer, which is the Lost Summer Rum limited edition. So we're serving that all summer long as well, along with all of these to-go cocktails, and of course, all our featured flagship spirits. You got your rye whiskey, you've got your bourbon, got our Gilded Age vodka, Railroad gin, and our Peacemaker gin. Staff is all here, and we're just ready to kind of get over this. Super excited about summer, just getting people back together in crowds safely. But yeah, that's the story. Big unity with a lot of our Eastern Market neighbors too. Eastern Market Brewing is right next to us, and it's just been a really, really, I don't want to say fun time, but a collaborative, we got close together here in Eastern Market, figuring out how all businesses, all local businesses can go ahead and thrive through the release, this post-pandemic that's going on. So
That's good news to hear, and it really is a crisis. It brings us closer together, and also allows you to think outside the box, because thinking about the city of Detroit, I used to work over there at Crane Communications building, so, people don't understand that's kind of like a big cut through to get back on the highway. So to work with the city and say, hey, can we shut down this road? And they're working with businesses. I wonder, too, prior to the pandemic, that conversation maybe would have gone a different way.
Right. Yeah. And it's talking about thinking outside of the box. And I think, kind of proud of a lot of, like the city of Detroit working with a lot of the local businesses. Like, for instance, it was every bartender's dream to sell to-go cocktails.
Yep.
All right. That usually wasn't allowed. And then it was just it was really nice. How do you go ahead, support the economy? How do you go ahead and support your local businesses? Why don't we go ahead and shove a little of these like old laws under the rug, and let's see what happens. Let's see what goes ahead, and let's a local business thrive. And, all the local businesses around here, we honored that, and we went ahead and we thought out of the box, and we started getting a little fun and a little crazy out on that block over there. So.
And for those that haven't been to Eastern Market or haven't been down there, I think this is perfect. They should have done this years ago, though, where they shut down that whole area for people to go, really shop to shop, bar to bar, restaurant to restaurant, to experience the entire Eastern Market, because we do know it attracts huge crowds, if anything, just for the art. And so to incorporate this into that arena, is it going to stick around for years to come, do you think?
In my opinion, honestly, I think so. And that was where you have something really, really like flourishing out of a bad situation. You all of a sudden see, all right, so what if we did allow businesses to close off the streets during Saturdays and Sundays? What's Eastern Market look like on Sundays without streets closed off? What happens when people realize that there is a nice Sunday fun day block party going on, in Eastern Market with the brewing company, the distillery, the clothing shops, that kind of thing. So I think it kind of opened people's eyes up a little bit to where, something just like you said, maybe we should have been doing this years ago, even before there was like a pandemic, open markets, a lot of socialization, just kind of like solidarity with all different businesses. Grab a cocktail, get a bed of flowers, go get a sandwich, nice slice of pizza, boom. You can spend all day in Eastern Market, and before you know it, the sun's going down. We see, and I've seen that too, is that's what the kind of persona is that's happened with all this solidarity here during COVID, pre-COVID, during COVID, post-COVID. It's been really, really fun, and I think it let a lot of creativity for not just Detroit City Distillery, but again, a lot of local businesses just band together saying, hey, what can we do? So.
We're talking with Garrett Passiak. He's the brand ambassador over at the Detroit City Distillery. And with that, Garrett, too, if I can ask you, so many restaurants and businesses are having issues with trying to find enough employees. Is that the case for you as well?
We've always been a family, a close-knitted family, and it hasn't really been an issue with us, So again, you don't panic, you pivot. You're like, okay, where can employee A, B, and C go? Let's go ahead and do this. Where can employee, like DEF go? And you just kind of send them, and you all come together, and, everyone just kind of like did duties that, were out of the box for themselves. And I think that was very important. Like, as an employee, you just kind of got to go ahead and you got to work through it. But yeah, we were very, very fortunate. Our staff's amazing. It is small, tight-knit, family-style staff, and so everyone did their part. Go deliver a barrel into a truck. No one ever says that's not my job, and I think that's very important for any type of restaurant, bar, work staff. You got to band together. You got to realize what's going on, and just all kind of work together to make things happen.
So what are your thoughts on the curfew now being extended? You're open till 2?
We're not open till 2 yet. We traditionally have never been open till 2 as a distillery. But I can tell you one thing, with people opening till 2, you do have a lot of even our coworkers are excited that they can get off work and just go grab a beer and a burger at 11:30. So
that is so true, right?
Yep, 100%.
So with that, Garrett, too, if I can ask you, the drinks to go, do you think that's going to be part of your marketing plan from here on out? Can you sell them online?
You can't sell drinks to go online. I don't believe that. Or I'm not 100% sure. But definitely, I do not believe that you can get drinks to go online. And there's a lot of, like law still as far as that goes. But again, with the solidarity for the drinks to go, I always encourage, hopefully one day you will be able to get them online. For instance, a friend from Boston saying, hey, can I order those? Hopefully in the future that will be possible. And the regulations of allowing drinks to go in general, just to the public, seeing how that goes, I really think that a lot of legislators are going to start thinking about kind of getting a little bit lighter rules on as far as like liquor distribution goes.
And I'm thinking too, of course it's baby steps. I'm jumping down the road, but when I'm buying gifts for people, I always go to the distillery and I get a bottle of the booze, and I take it to them, and people love that. You go to Chicago, they love it, but then it's like, hey, can you get me another bottle?
Of course.
Technically, shipping across state lines can be a little bit of an issue, but it's just great marketing too. And once people experience your product, they want more.
Mm-hmm. And what's good about the to-go cocktails, and not only is it fun, B, a lot of, in my opinion, in Detroit City Distillery's philosophy is you've got all these individuals that, like, everyone's on the fence. Everyone have different views of what the social distancing should be. So, number one, you're coming down with a couple of friends. You want a to-go cocktail. You want to take them home to your barbecue. Boom. You want to go ahead and just like sit and relax by yourself. It gave individuals an opportunity to where if you did not feel like going into a bar and getting a craft cocktail from a bartender, if you weren't comfortable with that, what we did is we made them, and that was the purpose of a to-go cocktail. So all you literally have to do, I'll demonstrate real quick. Go ahead. Put your favorite glass, and just like a bartender, go ahead and shake it. And this allowed individuals to get that real classic craft cocktail experience from the comfort of their backyard, from the comfort of their home. And that was the original kind of concept behind a to-go cocktail. You didn't feel comfortable going in a bar. You didn't really know how to make a brown derby or a perfect Manhattan, bee's knees, etc. We allowed that, and a lot of other establishments allowed the concept of the to-go cocktail to make people feel comfortable to where they could get that craft cocktail, didn't have to wait a year and a half, 2 years to go back to the bar to get their bartender's favorite drink that they did not know really how to make at home or didn't have access to those type of ingredients or, glasses, even that kind of thing. So.
Right, but even like, I don't care how many YouTube videos I watch, I still cannot make a good martini. I try. Hey, what about events? Because you have an amazing space there. I know that some people kind of go into the tasting room there on Rio Pal, but they may not understand that you actually do tours of the distillery itself, and then I believe where you are is kind of that warehouse area, which in my opinion is a perfect place for a wedding reception. Are events coming back for you and your team?
They are, and our events team, Alyssa, Caitlin, and AJ have been working around the clock. There was even during the pandemic, it was interesting. What they were doing is you'd say like, wait a second, we're not having events, so what are we gonna do? They spent a very, very long time. It was a full-time job rescheduling weddings that were not allowed to happen. So we had weddings booked all the way up until the end of this year, 2020. Now they're working on, what they had to do is go ahead and switch all those weddings, to 2021, 2022. So they were working their butts off the entire time. Weddings are coming back. They, again, with the restrictions being lifted now, we've had weddings, they're starting to come back. We have, again, weddings are booked all the way up until, I believe we even have requests all the way up until 2023.
Wow.
So we're standing in, where you used to work at Crane Communications, so we're right down the street in the old Stroh's ice cream factory. 25,000 square foot venue. Usually fits about 240, but I don't want AJ, Caitlin, and Alyssa to tell me I'm wrong, but I believe about 240 people for the wedding. But beautiful space, nice industrial meets elegance, as I always call it.
I love that. Garrett, just another minute or two here with you on the Megacast, and we always appreciate all of you taking your time, but I'm looking at your Summer Rum. I will say I love the creativity of your team. I know that you do the project with bees in the D. We love them, but people need to understand these sell out quickly. You do the, just different types of drinks that you come up with, local businesses. And so with that too, the Summer Rum, is it hard to get? Can people still get it?
People can still get it. Number one, you want to go to your local store. Like, we're all over Southeast Michigan. If you are tuning in from Grand Rapids, Traverse City, there are some stores up there that are carrying it. But for the Southeast Michigan crowd, your local stores should have it. But again, I always encourage individuals, come on down to Eastern Market, support local, come get the experience of Eastern Market, come get the experience of actually coming to the distillery, getting your own bottle from the distillery. But usually we say that it goes from Memorial Day to Labor Day, but you never know. All right. So I always tell individuals, stock up. If your store doesn't have it, tell them they should order it, And but yeah, this definitely is limited, along with Bees in the D bourbon. Stay tuned. That is coming come the fall, winter type area. So,
and when it's announced, buy it that day. Don't wait.
Yes, that's the most notorious example of that is our Punchki vodka. You've ever seen that?
I forgot about that. Yeah, there's usually a line for that one.
Exactly. Yeah. I to this day did not get a bottle this year, and I work for the company. So.
Well, Garrett, we always appreciate your time. It's a great thing that you guys have going there. I love the street area. It really adds, in my opinion, to the flavor of Eastern Market and making it more than just a place to go down and get your fruits and vegetables. You make a day out of it. Rent a bike, ride the DeQuinder Cut, come back, have something to eat, and then go over and have a great cocktail as well. So
100%.
Garrett, we always appreciate your time, and we wish you all continued success as well.
Thank you. Say hi to your team. Thank you, Ronnie. Thank you, Tyler.
Okay, happy day to you. Again, Garrett Passiak with us, Brand Ambassador for the Detroit City Distillery. Running a little bit behind. Our apologies to our next guest, Greg Flynn. Will be with you right after this quick break.
I want to get back to seeing my grandbabies every Sunday and smothering them with big hugs and kisses.
I want to get back to football games with my boys.
I want to get back to feeling and touching, connecting with the people around me.
I want to get back to family dinners and my grandma's mac and cheese.
I want to get back to real grocery shopping, taking my time, walking down every aisle, smelling the tomatoes and melons, having a free sample or two, or 3.
COVID-19 has changed how we live and how we feel. But now, there are vaccines. And they are the first step that let us get back to feeling optimistic about the days ahead of us. It's okay to have questions.
Is it safe?
Should I get it?
Should I wait?
Now, get the facts. Learn more at getvaccineanswers.org so you can make an informed decision when vaccines are available to you. Brought to you by the Ad Council.
Right now, our country feels divided, but there's a place where people are coming together.
I was nervous to talk to someone so different than me.
Me too. Love Has No Labels and One Small Step are helping people with different political views, beliefs, and experiences connect through conversation, and it feels good.
This conversation gives me hope.
It gives me a lot of hope, too. Take a step toward bringing our country and your community together. Start a conversation at lovehasnolabels.com/onesmallstep. A message from StoryCorps, Love Has No Labels, and the Ad Council.
Just about about 10-15 minutes left here in the show. We want to say thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us. Tyler, I have a feeling this is going to be a crazy summer for so many people.
Yeah. As things start to open back up, and a lot of people are going out and being much more active, much more social, all over town, whether it be on the lakes, whether it be at different gathering places in our community or all throughout the local area. I think we're going to be seeing a lot of action this summer, Ronnie.
And as more people get out and about, that means probably more calls to our heroes to come rescue us. Let's bring in Greg Flynn. He's the chief over at the West Bloomfield Fire Department. Chief, always great to have you with us.
Well, almost good afternoon to you guys. How are you? How are you doing, Tyler and Ronnie?
We're hanging in there, but I will say this weekend it's expected to be 90 degrees again. So many people will be out and about. In general, outside of a pandemic, what types of calls do you and your team members typically respond to in the summer?
Well, I would say that most of our calls kind of remain pretty consistent throughout the year. But what we do see an uptick where we would normally say we're out on the ice or we're doing something with the lakes, it just changes to open water, and there might be an issue with a boat or someone out in some hazardous weather, either early in the season or late in the season in their kayak, and things get a little crazy and the kayak turns over, those things. But I'll tell you this, our residents do such a nice job of being their situational awareness that often our own residents are affecting those rescues. There's an awareness on the open water. They see a boater in trouble, and a boater helps out another boater. And often by the time we get there, the residents have already taken care of their neighbors out on the water.
Yeah, the lake community really is a great community.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's in the air. When there's fireworks, and I've had the opportunity over the years just to kind of walk the beach area, and everybody's getting excited about the fireworks coming. There's just a connection that when you get by the water, that everybody just takes a deep breath, and it just seems to go a little bit easier for the most part.
Hey, Chief, if we can talk about fireworks, because one thing, if you live in this area, I'm like, we are already hearing them go off. They started last weekend. I was like, hello, people. Can we just wait?
Sure.
But, there are so many people that go ahead and get them. We know that some communities this year did not issue permits for the big fireworks. The city of Detroit is still going to be closed to the public, even though they're going to do it in a private location. But when it comes to that, I feel like we're seeing more people, or at least I'm hearing from my bedroom, it seems like more people are buying them either online or is setting them off, and they're bigger than what we're used to from when we grew up as kids.
Sure. Fireworks have been an issue my entire career here, almost 24 years here in West Bloomfield. And it really, the access to the devices, it's just everywhere. And so without being able to have that direct control over access, how people get them, and then usually by the time someone starts a show, their own private show, and by the time, excuse me for that, the time that they call for us and the police come out and all that, it's complex to try to get there before they're done.
And we would like to remind people, be kind to your neighborhood, because we do know, they'll set them off in our neighborhood. Our houses are pretty close together. And if you get a dud, it can burn down a house or a structure pretty quickly.
Well, and I can tell you there's been multiple fires over my career where that's exactly what happens, whether it's, something like a bottle rocket or something that goes airborne and it wedges underneath a shingle. And what it does is it's just going to smolder there. And our fire investigators play an active role in determining that. But talked to Fire Marshal Turnquist before, and he pre-approves and reviews, along with his team, all of the shows. And we really want to encourage people to go to professional shows. They work with the fire department. They set up in a safe area. You've probably seen them set up on the beach or out on a barge. where they're surrounded by water. Afterwards, we circle that barge with the pyrotechnic team, and they make sure everything is extinguished. It's just a safer way for everyone to enjoy it. And you see the really big, beautiful fireworks when you do it that way.
That is so true. Chief Greg Flynn with us here on the Megacast with the West Bloomfield Fire Department. And Chief, if I can ask you, do you guys do any type of checks of some of these pop-up fireworks stands to make sure they are selling legitimate fireworks and legal fireworks?
So it's a great question, Ronnie. We'll coordinate with the state fire marshal's office for jurisdiction over those, but we'll work in close concert with them as far as that goes, in making sure that the permitting of that we play a role in with locally, and how the tent is set up and all of that. But again, we coordinate with the state fire marshal's office on the overall oversight of those.
Yeah, I know it's hard to keep up with too, because some of these just seem to pop up overnight and then disappear overnight.
Right, and it's all driven by demand. So if there's no demand in West Bloomfield or the surrounding area, then they don't pop up. So always part of the difficult conversation here. People say, Chief, why don't you just make it stop? Or if you talk to Chief Patton, he gets the same questions. And demand is what drives the market for these things. And clearly there is a demand. You can hear it on any given night. But I agree with you. People do need to be considerate of their neighbors. They need to be considerate of their pets. And when we know something's coming, when we have scheduled fireworks shows, that gives people time to prepare. But when it's just 9:30 at night and all of a sudden you're getting ready to kind of call it a night and things start popping off down your street, that is pretty frustrating. And we would just encourage people to call the non-emergency number into the communication center, alert us about that, and they'll probably send most likely a police officer over and try to correct the situation. And if it's a bigger situation or there's things that need to be disposed of, then they'll activate the team at the FD and we'll come out and assist.
We're talking with Chief Flynn over at the West Bloomfield Fire Department. Chief, how are other things going there with you and the department over the past month or so? It's been a few weeks since we've had you on the show.
Things are going well. The team is really coming out with some of the restrictions being lifted through MIOSHA around the engine house. I'm very grateful to report that we haven't had any significant COVID cases within the department now in quite some time. I'm looking for something wood to knock on here.
I'll do it for you.
Thank you. And I really do want to compliment the men and women here at the WBFD, because they're the ones that make that happen. They're the ones that are taking care when they're out on the calls for service within the community and in and out of the hospital, deconning the ambulances on a regular basis. Now, these are all things, Ronnie and Tyler, that we've always done. We did uptick it though with the novel coronavirus, just because that was the right thing to do. And now I think we're in an even better place with the ease of the deconning and access to plenty of those solutions that we need to properly do that. And just again, I think the overall awareness, with even the mask mandate being lifted in many of the big box stores and open spaces. I was down at the market, with your previous guest, Danielle and I were just down there this weekend. And still, if you go into the meat section on the other side of the freeway there at the market, everybody had their mask on. And you step outside and people were taking it. I really think that the public gets it. And I've always been a fan on this show of saying that there are so many people that get it. And too often, I think people want to focus on the one or two people that are problematic with compliance with a mask or, arguing vaccine in kind of some non-relevant way. I think most people get it.
Yeah, you are definitely seeing that now. In fact, I've been surprised at how many people are still wearing a mask.
Right.
So it's, and it's to everyone's choice as well, which is the good thing. Hey, Chief, just a couple minutes here with you. Are you guys doing any hiring this summer at all?
We are. We just closed out. Well, I shouldn't say closed out. We just are taking a snapshot of the candidates that we have right now. We have them scheduled for interviews on June 10th. So right now we have 2 open positions, but we're always looking for good candidates in the area, because there's, the WBFD 95 budgeted positions within the fire department here in the sworn, uniform positions, 4 civilian positions. So 99 employees. There's turnover, and that's natural turnover. That's not COVID turnover or anything like that. This is just years of service have been met, and they've completed that chapter, and they're moving on. So we're always looking for good candidates to come in. I would encourage those that have their paramedic license in particular, and they've been considering becoming a firefighter. We'd love to put you through the fire academy. So we're taking applications from folks that are state licensed paramedics, or even close to, Ronnie. If they're in paramedic school and they're going to complete it within the next 6-7 months, we want to talk to them. And if they're a good candidate, we're going to hire them. We're going to help them complete their paramedic class, and then we're going to send them over to the fire academy. So a lot more opportunity. We've kind of opened up that group that we're looking at. So we really want to get the message out that if you're a state licensed paramedic, soon to be a state licensed paramedic, and you're interested in also being a firefighter, we want to have a conversation with you here at the WBFD.
I think that's great to know, because I know a few people that are in the line with what you're looking for as well. And, so many of these candidates apply to multiple departments at one time. So still people are interested in being our frontline heroes, which is great to know. But Chief, we want to say thank you again for your time. As always, sorry we were a little late getting to you today.
Oh, no worries. Always good to be with you. Enjoyed listening to the Megacast here, going up to the interview, and just wish you guys continued success. Thank you.
We'll see you at Eastern Market one Saturday.
I love it. Sounds good. It won't be dressed like this, though.
Chief Flynn with us here on the Megacast from the West Bloomfield Fire Department. That's going to wrap it up for today's edition of the Megacast.